everyone, I'm Chris. If you're not familiar with me, I typically do 1-minute book reviews, but today we're going to be talking about Cursed, and there's so much I wanted to say about this book that I could not keep it down to just 1 minute. But like all my reviews, it will still be spoiler free, and I'm going to talk about 3 main things: world building, characters, and plot. So in case you're not familiar with Cursed, this is a new take on Arthurian legend. So if you know anything about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, the Sword in the Stone, Merlin, then a lot of things in this book will seem familiar to you. Traditionally, Nimue is the Lady of the Lake. She's the one that pulls the sword from the lake and gives it to Arthur. In this story, Nimue is a young fae girl, and she ends up getting the Sword of Power, which she uses to try and save her people who are being persecuted by the church, aka the Red Paladins. Now, I could tell pretty quickly early on when I was reading this book that it just was not for me. The author, Thomas Wheeler, said in an interview with Barnes & Noble that he wanted to frame the story so that his 12-year-old daughter could better understand the mythology. Now, that being said, I've read plenty of books for young readers that have vivid world building, deep and complex characters, and engaging plots, so there's no reason that this book could not have those, even though it's meant for younger readers. So let's talk a little bit about the world building. So like I said, this is Arthurian legend, so it takes place in medieval England, which we know is the past. We also have fairies and wizards and stuff here, so it's the magical past. So this book could have really done anything it wanted to build on the lore and, the world of the story. It could have gone anywhere. But instead, the story has really weird references to realistic and real-world places. Like it mentions Rome at one point, which, okay, the church, I get that one. But then it also talks a lot about neighboring countries, Denmark, Norway. And then there's also this character called the Ice King who lives in the north. Now, there's no map in here, so I don't really know what they mean by that. Like North England, that's Scotland, or do they mean Iceland, Ice King, Iceland? That would make sense. But characters travel back and forth from there so quickly, there's no way they mean Iceland with an ocean, between everyone. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense sometimes when they do that. And every time I came across one of those references, it made me stop and wonder when and where the heck this book is supposed to be taking place. So let's talk about characters. We'll start with Nimue, our main character. When we first meet her in the book, we're just kind of thrust into her world. We don't really know a lot about her, except that she seems to be an outsider in her own clan. We don't really know why, other than she seems to have a unique connection with her magic. We find out much later on that she actually has a really cool backstory. There was something that she experienced that was traumatic as a child, which is really, really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't feel like that experience really connects to what is going on in the story currently. You're going to hear me say this a couple times, but there's a really cool idea here, but I don't feel like that idea was fully realized and fully connects with the plot. So Nimue is also one of these reluctant heroes. She really wants to save her people, but she does not want to be the one to actually do the saving. Although the story is even inconsistent with this a little bit. She spends half the story trying to get rid of the Sword of the Power, and then she spends the other half of the story using the Sword of Power to straight up murder people. Side note, there is a surprising amount of violence in this story considering it's for younger readers. Like I said, Nimue murders tons of people, well, mostly Red Paladins, who are the bad guys, but still. So let's talk about the bad guys for a minute. So the main villain of the story is Father Cardan. He's the leader of the Red Paladins. There is zero nuance with this character. He is a stereotypical mustache-twirling villain. We don't know anything about him other than he's evil and he wants to kill the Fae because they're different. There's no backstory. There's nothing interesting about him. He's just evil and that's it. There's really nothing interesting about most of the Red Paladin characters, so I guess they did that on purpose so that we don't feel bad when Nimue just goes around murdering all of them. I don't know. The other character I want to talk about really quick is Arthur. He is in this book, But instead of being, you know, King Arthur the hero, he's just a sellsword here who kind of helps Nimue on her journey. Now, everyone tells Nimue not to trust Arthur because he's got a shady past, and he does things for money, and he's selfish, he's a jerk, blah, 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 blah. But every action that he takes with Nimue is kind, it's well-intentioned, he clearly cares for her, so there's no reason why Nimue shouldn't trust him. Like most of the characters in this book, Arthur is very surface level, he's uneven, he's a sellsword one minute, the next minute he's risking his life to save Nimue and help her on her journey. We also have King Uther Pendragon. One minute he's this rough, tough barbarian king, in another scene he's like a spoiled little man-child baby. And that's pretty much the same thing with all the characters. A lot of them are super uneven and very surface level. Which is unfortunate because there are a lot of cool characters in this book, especially when it comes to the Fae. There's all these Fae clans, and they sound really, really cool. We never get to know anything about them. So maybe that's intentional to keep the plot simple? I don't know. Because I feel like the plot is both simple and complex at the same time. So Nimue using the sword to save her people, simple. But then we also have all these other characters and all these other side plots in this story. We've got King Uther Pendragon and his court. They've got their own stuff going on. The Ice King, he's got his stuff going on. We've got Shadow Kings and Leper Kings, and Merlin's doing his own stuff. And people in the Fae, we've got Morgan, she's doing her own stuff. Like, yes, all these characters kind of come together at the end, but not in the way that you would think. The book just kind of ends on a cliffhanger. Like, yes, I guess the main conflict is resolved, kind of, but 90% of the other ones are not. Now, I'm not against ending a book on a cliffhanger. If you're a well-established author, maybe you have a lot of books in your series, like, it can be done, and it can be done well. Here, though, it's pretty clear that the ending of this book is only there to set up the next book. Thomas Wheeler, in his acknowledgement section in the end of the book, actually says, talking to Frank Miller, "I'm so thankful for his trust, his wisdom, and his idea to ally Sister Iris with an army of killer children. A must for book 2. What? Again, there's nothing wrong with having plans for a future book, but don't tell me what the spoilers are in the back. Like, yes, that does sound cool. Why isn't that in this book? Oh wait, Sister Iris is barely in this book. She's in like 3 scenes. She doesn't really do anything except for one thing at the end, so why do I even care that she's in book 2? So here's a piece of advice for any would-be authors, screenwriters out there. Don't leave anything on the table. Tell the best story that you can first, and then if people want to hear more, then you can start planning your sequel. The truth is, you never know when you're going to get a second chance, so tell the best story that you can up front. So clearly, I had a lot of issues with this book. Like I said, I could tell it wasn't for me. If you're someone that likes Arthurian legend, you may love this book, so maybe you should give it a chance. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a pretty quick read. The chapters are short. The letters are big. And of course, I could not mention the artwork. If you are a visual person, then the price of this book is worth it just for the artwork alone. Not everyone loves Frank Miller's style. If you're not familiar with his black and white style, I would recommend checking out The Dark Knight, Sin City, his Daredevil run. But like it or not, you cannot deny that the man is a genius. I'm using black and white for vivid action shots. There's also some full-colored pages in here that I think are just beautiful. So those are my thoughts on Cursed. Again, not for me, but I hope you like it. Have you read it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Tell me what you think in the comments below, and as always, happy reading.